And fam, I do see a shift in the rhetoric of Russia and China. And I see a shift in general in the entire world. UN, what a former UN representatives who have worked for years putting in their letter of resignation. And I think if I find it, I'm going to put up the letter so we can read it. It's a very important letter. And then also what was said by the Russian UN permanent representative, Vasily Nebenzia, to the UN, right? On behalf of Russia at the UN. Russia has always been fairly diplomatic. They always try to maintain this relationship where, they say, okay, well, we need to, almost to an annoyance, like we need to cooperate, we need to pull back, we need to find some sort of resolution. I think what we're seeing here is Russia take a position. We saw what Putin said, that Palestine needs to be a state. We see that, right? We see that. We know that the foreign ministry does have still ties, and the Russian government in general. They have a relationship with Israel. There's an economic sector involved there. But again, there's going to be a choice that needs to be made. Did you want to say anything before we hear from Nebenzia?
Nope.
Okay, so let's hear from UN Permanent Representative Vasily Nebenzia. And you can put it low, so I'll read it. Unless it's, I don't remember if it was...
Got a cheese slice?
I don't know if it's translated. I think it's... No. I think there's a voice. I think there's a voice translator there, so... I think. No, there's not. I cannot help but dwell on the hypocrisy of the U.S. and its allies, who in other situations call for compliance with human rights, create commissions of inquiry, and impose sanctions on those who actually apply force only as a last resort to stop years of violence. And today, seeing the horrific destruction in Gaza many times greater than what they angrily criticize in other regional contexts. Attacks on civilian targets, including hospitals, the death of thousands of children, and the horrific suffering of the civilian population under a total blockade. They seem to have taken the water out. All they can do is talk about Israel's alleged right to self-defense, although as an occupying power, it has no such right, as confirmed by the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice in 2004. I hope this blatant double standard is clear to our colleagues in the global south. As for Israel's security, the right to which we recognize, it can be fully guaranteed only in the event of a fair solution to the Palestinian problem on the basis of the well-known UN Security Council resolutions. We do not deny Israel the right to fight terrorism, but fight terrorists, not with civilians. Otherwise, you yourself take the side of evil and act using its own methods. Now, obviously, you're right. They're still saying, okay, well, we don't deny the Israel the right to go after terrorists. We don't deny the Israel the right to secure itself. But you have to basically have a Palestinian state. There's no other way. And how hypocritical of the United States to always talk about, genocide, right? The Uyghur genocide. How many times did we hear about that, right? Or what are the genocide of Ukrainians by Russia or whatever other genocide we were supposed to, hear about. But when it comes to this, they refuse. First of all, they refuse to call it a genocide. They refuse to even mention that it's happening. They're trying to justify this by saying every Palestinian is a terrorist. And I haven't seen proof of terrorists. I've only seen proof of militants who are defending their country. So again, if Israel has the right to its security, then so does Palestine. And that's not being, and again, as he said, technically Israel as an occupier does not have the right to defend itself because it's an occupation. So this goes back to even in trying, to absolve this via the UN. It's just like, what is the UN doing, really? I mean, they're saying, some of these things, but what is that doing? How is that solving this conflict? It's to me, it's just not. I mean, there's got to be more done. there's got to be more that needs to be unanimously accepted and pushed. The United States and Israel need to be held accountable in some ways. People need to stop calling or start calling their ambassadors from the embassies, like Bolivia did, right? Like Bolivia has done, like Colombia and even Chile. And you have Bahrain today also joining in. You have this happening. I think that's significant. I haven't seen that happen in a long time. That usually only happens in times of war, in times of an impending war. And the fact that you're seeing so many countries from different parts of the world doing that really shows that this is a serious issue that is it exceeds the borders of Israel and Palestine.
Yeah. It's just, it's like, obvious they want a crisis, and that's the West, because they want to be able to exploit the crisis for what it is. So that's the whole thing that's really hard when you talk about finding a solution to this issue. Can you really find a solution, fam, when the other side doesn't want a solution to the issue? They want their results. So they're just going to make sure that there's a crisis going on no matter what, so they can exploit this crisis for what it is. I do appreciate somebody's mentioning Barbara Lee. What's up, buddy? Somebody is mentioning Barbara Lee in the chat. Barbara Lee was one of the only few. She had a forum of sorts with Adam Schiff for Brains and Katie Porter, and they did talk about Israel-Palestine. And of course, what Adam Schiff stands on Israel-Palestine. He's the neocon to the umpth degree on every single situation. You can go back and look at Adam Schiff. He hates Russia. He's terrible. And Barbara Lee was on the other end of the spectrum. Barbara Lee was also on the other end of the spectrum of every single congressional member when it came to the AUMF. It is a shame that she is supporting goose-stepping Nazis. I did try to reach out to the campaign to see if she wanted to come on and talk about it. I haven't heard back. Who knows? But, she has called for a ceasefire within the Israel-Palestine situation. And that's what, I went out to that rally, fam, on Saturday in downtown L.A., and I can tell you this, the majority of the people want one thing, a ceasefire. First things first, just the ceasefire. And I wish we can get that. They're trying to really, clout the situation and muddy the waters and try to make it look like these people are pro-Hamas. They're anti-Semitic. No, it's bullshit. And to see that, we talked about this yesterday, to see them try to do it, they're not going to succeed. We have gone out to rallies and protests for quite some time. We talked to some people. They want a ceasefire. End of story. That's it. Go ahead, fam.
No, I mean, yeah, I think a ceasefire would, not everybody wants just a ceasefire, right? They want Israel to do X, Y, Z. Israel isn't going to do that willingly. So that's the reality, right? A lot of activists don't necessarily just want a ceasefire, because then they're afraid Israel's just going to go back to doing what it's been doing, and Palestine's going to remain in the occupation. So there are different points of view, but a lot of people that are in the area, and a lot of people that have family members in Palestine, or in particularly in Gaza, that's being completely wiped off the face of the map, want a ceasefire, clearly, because they don't want to see any more people killed. So I think a ceasefire could open the table, but I don't think the ceasefire means that things are going to go back to the way they were this time. I don't think we're going to. I think that moment has passed. Just like the moment passed with negotiations in terms of Ukraine getting anything, that moment's passed. Who's talking about Ukraine right now, right? Like, Ukraine's on the back burner.
Nobody.
People are annoyed and over with the whole Ukraine situation in the West. They see Ukrainian generals themselves are saying Ukraine's counteroffensive has failed. They've seen way too many losses. The time is coming. So that's Zelensky's been replaced, right? The only people paying attention to him are Anthony Blinken dressing up his children as Zelensky and the Ukrainian flag. I mean, or it's just insane. But other than that, right? Other than your standard psychopath, the Ukrainian issue has been very awful for Europe. And what's her name? Meloni, Italy's Meloni, really got caught by Vovin and Alexis, the two pranksters. She got caught basically saying that everybody's tired of Ukraine, and it's really been an economic failure for Europe. And she got caught basically admitting that, like this is pointless and this is a failure. Like, so what I think we're seeing with this conflict is another attempt at yet another war situation where they're looking towards expansion in this area. They're looking to expand in Syria and get these oil wells. They're looking to expand in the Palestine area and get all of this land and all of this fertile soil and all of these natural resources. It's always about resource extraction, and that's what they're looking to do. And so when we're talking about what is this really about, is it about Palestinians? No, and it's not about Israelis either. Obviously, for Palestine, it is about Palestinians and people who support Palestine, and it being a human global issue, right? An issue that affects the entirety of the world, and it really assesses who's a human being and who's not. Because at this point, anybody supporting Israel lacks humanity. You can't support what is being done to Palestinians, even if you think that there might be a few terrorists hiding there, which I haven't seen evidence of at all. And I'm not condoning that line. But I'm saying, even if you thought that there were terrorists in some form or fashion, you don't kill thousands of innocent people. If the United States did that, how would that look? How would that look? But they are doing that, not directly, but indirectly, by supplying Israel with weapons, by supplying Israel with endless money, by supplying Israel with propaganda, with the propaganda machine of the entire mainstream media, of the entire internet giants, like the Facebook and Instagram and Meta and even Twitter. Twitter has been taking down accounts that are pro-Palestinian. Twitter has been trying to, censor accounts, shadow ban accounts. This has been ongoing for a long time. And Palestinian voices in particular, because I don't really care if Westerners, big accounts, including mine, what we should try to get the Palestinian voices out there, because they're the ones that are being killed. The Palestinian journalists that are out there that are reporting and are, seeing their entire families obliterated. So many journalists from Al Jazeera, from RT Arabic, have lost their entire families, and then they have to work the next day within hours. So this is, I think, a moment in history that is changing, I think, a lot of things going forward. Israel will never be viewed the same after this. And the anti-Semitism that is coming from this is real, because that's big, but that's Israel's fault. That's Israel and the United States' fault for trying to conflict and Zionism with Judaism. So Fam, did you have anything to say? I wanted to show something. 1 second.
No, show what you got to show. I mean, these are like just, you got it. This is he's dressed like Zelensky, the kid, and the daughter has the Ukrainian dress. This is fun.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Is he Zelensky? Is he really dressed like Zelensky?
Yeah, look, he's wearing the
that
green
would be some disgusting shit.
He's wearing like the green Zelensky shirt that the only one he owns. Other than that, I don't think anybody's been paying attention to Zelensky. Like, where's Zelensky? He was supposed to have elections. He didn't hold elections. How is it a democratic, and we all know their elections, no matter what, are already thrown, right? They're already. I wanted to show this video of Zionists attacking Jews, and notice how I differentiate between Zionists and Jews. And I think, again, I say this as somebody that, supports Palestine. Do not, go about saying we need to eliminate, because I've seen some of those comments, right? We need to just get rid of all. This is what people have been saying. I've seen it, right? They say, we need to just get rid of all, quote, all the Jews. This is what they have been saying. And I've seen that. And I don't condone that at all, because there are a lot of people that are practicing, of the Hebrew religion or ethnically Hebrew. I'm ethnically Jewish, excuse me, and don't condone what Palestine is doing. Right? They know exactly that they're not the victims. They know that Israel is the aggressor, and they have been voicing out their support for Palestine in spite of what it does to them, in spite of all the hate they're getting, in spite of all the pushback they're getting. So don't allow that to really permeate, because that discredits everything that the Palestinians are doing. That really just pretty much gives impetus for the fact that Palestinians want to erase all Jews, right? That's really the other rhetoric that the Zionists are pushing, that Palestinians want to erase all Jews. But as Pasta said earlier, it's projection, because the people who are being genocided are the Palestinians, who are Semitic people. So here's a video of these Zionists attacking these group of Jewish, pro-Palestinian Jewish folk.
Play it from the beginning again, because all that stuff going on is just it's too hard to pay attention to, Cheese. Put the volume up all the way. Start it from the beginning. Smack him in the head and put him in there.
Wow. Isn't that disgusting? I mean, what do you say to that, Pasta? I don't know.
What can you say to that? You know what I'm saying? We've said this before on many other shows. The Jewish people, right, who push back against Zionism are looked upon by the state of Israel as even worse than the Palestinians sometime. You know what I'm saying? They just don't kill them because they would get more pushback for it. But you could see how they look at them. They look at them with disgust. I mean, they're one of the biggest enemies the state of Israel has, because they are actual Jews pushing back against Zionism.
Yeah, exactly.
What can you say?
Yeah, it actually discredits their entire narrative, right? Like that this is anti-Semitic. Well, how is it anti-Semitic then if your own people, right, are saying what you're doing is wrong? It's actually the Jews, the people who are Jewish and stand for Palestine, are actually the biggest narrative destroyers of the state of Israel and the Zionism that they're doing. It's really important, and I'm glad to see that there are many of them that have been speaking out. So that's good.